Hey you, yeah, you right there watching this. Grab a comfy seat because this story is going to grab your heart and not let go. Before we jump in, I've got a quick question for you. Drop it in the comments below. Have you ever seen someone get laughed at or picked on only to surprise everyone by being super awesome? Oh, and one more thing, if you love stories that make you cheer, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss the next one. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for this. Okay, let's set the scene. Imagine a kid named Jake Turner. He's walking into school, but not like most kids. He's got crutches under his arms, clicking on the floor with every step. His leg is wrapped in a big, clunky brace that makes it hard to move fast. His backpack is sliding off his shoulder, and he's trying to keep it from falling. The halls of Westfield Middle School are loud and busy, full of kids laughing and talking. But when Jake walks by, people stop. They stare. Not in a friendly way either. It's the kind of stare that feels like a punch in the stomach. See, Jake is the new kid. He just moved to this town and nobody knows much about him. To some kids, that makes him different, and to a few mean ones, different means he's an easy target. The air in the hallway feels heavy, like a storm's coming. Kids whisper as he passes. Some giggle behind their hands. It's not a happy buzz like when something cool is happening. No, it's a sharp, stinging buzz like a swarm of bees circling, looking for someone to sting. And Jake, he's the one they're circling. But here's the thing, nobody knows the real Jake, not yet. He's got a secret, something big, something that's going to flip this whole story upside down. Want to know what it is? Don't go anywhere because this tale has twists and turns that'll keep you glued to your seat. Jake's not just some kid on crutches. He's got a spark inside him, a fire that's waiting to shine. And when it does, oh, you're gonna love it. Let's back up a bit. Picture Jake on his very first day at Westfield Middle School. The building is huge, with long hallways and shiny floors that squeak under his sneakers. Lockers line the walls, painted bright blue and red. Kids are everywhere, rushing to class, shouting to their friends, or digging through their bags. It's loud, like a big party Jake wasn't invited to. He feels small, even though he's not tiny. The crutches make him feel like he sticks out, like a sore thumb in a crowd. Jake's leg hurts a little today. It always does when he's nervous. A year ago, something bad happened, a car crash. It wasn't his fault, but it left his leg all messed up. The doctors put metal pins in it and said he'd need crutches for a long time, maybe forever. That's a heavy thing for a kid to hear, right? But Jake didn't let it break him. He's tough, tougher than anyone guesses. Still, walking into a new school with everyone staring, that's hard, even for a tough kid. He shuffles toward his first class, trying to ignore the eyes on him. His backpack keeps slipping and he has to stop to fix it. That's when he hears the first laugh. It's not loud, but it's sharp, like a dart. "Look at that guy," a kid mutters nearby. Jake pretends not to hear, but his cheeks get warm. He keeps moving, his crutches making a soft click-click on the floor. He's used to this, kind of. Every new school is the same. Kids stare, some whisper, a few make jokes. But something about Westfield feels different. The air feels tight, like everyone waiting for something to happen. Jake's not dumb. He knows why some kids are watching him like that. To them, he's the new guy with the weird walk, the kid who can't run or play sports like they do. To some, that makes him weak. An easy mark, someone they can tease to feel big. But Jake's got a secret they don't know. It's not something he talks about, not yet. It's like a treasure he's keeping safe, waiting for the right moment to show it. And when he does, those kids who laugh, they're gonna wish they'd been nicer. Let's zoom in on that first morning. Jake finally makes it to his classroom. It's math and the room smells like chalk and old books. The teacher, Mrs. Carter, is writing on the board. She looks up when Jake walks in, but she doesn't smile. "Find a seat," she says, pointing to the back. Jake nods and heads that way, his crutches clicking louder in the quiet room. Every kid turns to watch. Some look curious. Some look away fast, like they're embarrassed. But a few, they smirk. In the front row, there's a kid named Cody Baxter. He's got spiky hair and a grin that's more mean than friendly. Cody's the kind of kid who acts like he's the boss of everything. He leans over to his friend and whispers something, pointing at Jake. They both laugh, not even trying to hide it. Jake feels it like a sting, but he keeps his face blank. He slides into a desk at the back, dropping his backpack to the floor. His leg aches, but he ignores it. He pulls out a notebook and pretends to read, but really, he's listening. He hears Cody say, "Crutches kid thinks he's cool or something." His friends snicker again. Jake doesn't look up. He doesn't need to. He's heard stuff like this before. Kids like Cody, they're loud, but they're not as tough as they think. Jake, been through worse than mean words, way worse. The crash, the hospital, the months of learning to walk again, that was hard. A few laughs, that's nothing. Still, it doesn't feel good. Nobody likes being the odd one out, right? But Jake's got something up his sleeve, something Cody and his buddies can't even dream of. It's not time to show it yet, but it's coming. Let's talk about Jake for a second. He's not super tall or super short, just a regular kid with messy brown hair and green eyes that notice everything. He's quiet, but not because he's shy. He's quiet because he's thinking, always watching, always figuring things out. Before the crash, he was different, louder, more smiley. He loved running around, playing games, being with friends. The crash changed a lot, but it didn't take away who he is inside. Deep down, Jake's still a fighter. Not the kind who picks fights, but the kind who doesn't give up, no matter what. Back in the classroom, the bell rings and Mrs. Carter starts the lesson. Jake tries to focus, but he feels eyes on him. Cody keeps turning around, making faces at his friends. One of them tosses a tiny paper ball that lands near Jake's desk. Jake ignores it. He's not here to make trouble. He just wants to get through the day, but deep inside, there's a little fire burning. It's not anger exactly, it's something stronger. It's the part of Jake that knows he's more than what people see. More than crutches and a brace. More than whispers and laughs. That fire, it's tied to his secret. I won't spill it yet because that ruined the fun. But let's just say Jake got something special, something he's been working on even when nobody was watching. It's like a superpower, but not the flying or invisible kind. It's the kind you build with sweat and heart, and when the time's right, he's gonna show it to the world, or at least to Westfield Middle School. And when he does, those smirks are gonna disappear real fast. So what's the deal with this school? Westfield's not a bad place, not really. It's got a big gym, a library with tons of books, and a cafeteria that smells like pizza on Fridays. Most kids are okay, they're just trying to fit in, same as Jake. But every school's got a few like Cody, right? Kids who think teasing makes them cool. They don't know Jake, been through stuff that make their jaws drop. They don't know he's stronger than he looks, but they're gonna find out. Let's wrap this up with a little hint. Jake's first day doesn't end with a big fight or a crazy moment, not yet. He goes home, does his homework, and thinks about what happened. He doesn't cry or get mad. He just smiles a tiny bit, like he knows something nobody else does. That smile, it's a clue. It means Jake got a plan even if he's not saying it out loud. Something big is coming, something that'll make everyone see him in a whole new way. So stick with me, okay? This story's just getting started and it's packed with surprises. Jake's not the kid you think he is. He's got heart, guts, and a secret that's gonna light up this school like fireworks. Want to see what happens next? Keep watching because the best part's coming soon. And hey, don't forget to tell me in the comments, what would you do if you were Jake? Let's talk about it. Jake was no stranger to new places. His family moved a lot because his dad's job kept them hopping from town to town. He'd been to big cities and tiny villages, schools with shiny halls and ones with creaky floors. But Westfield, this town felt different. It wasn't just the chilly wind that blew through the streets or the gray clouds hanging low. No, it was something else, a coldness that wasn't about the weather. It was in the way people looked at him, like they were sizing him up before he even said hi. On his first day at Westfield Middle School, Jake felt it right away. He walked into math class, his crutches making a soft click-click on the shiny floor. His leg was wrapped in a big brace, the kind that makes it hard to bend your knee. His backpack hung heavy on one shoulder and he had to keep stopping to pull it up. The classroom was bright, with posters of numbers and shapes on the walls. Kids were already in their seats, chatting and laughing. But when Jake stepped in, the noise got quieter. Eyes turned his way. The teacher, Mrs. Carter, was writing something on the board. She barely looked up. "Take a seat," she said, pointing to a desk in the back without even a smile. Jake nodded and started toward it, his crutches clicking louder in the quiet room. He felt like everyone was watching, and not in a nice way. It was like he was a bug under a magnifying glass and the kids were deciding what to do with him. That's when he heard it, a laugh sharp and mean. "Yo, check out Crutches," a voice whispered, but loud enough for everyone to hear. It came from the front row where a kid named Cody Baxter sat. Cody was the kind of kid who acted like he ruled the school. He had spiky hair, a loud voice, and a grin that wasn't friendly at all. His two buddies, Ryan and Max, sat next to him, snickering like Cody had said the funniest thing ever. "What's wrong with your leg, huh? Trip over your own ego." Cody added, leaning back in his chair with a smirk. The whole class heard it, and a few kids giggled. Jake didn't look up. He slid into the back desk, dropped his backpack, and opened his notebook. His pencil felt heavy in his hand, and he gripped it tight, like it could hold back the sting of Cody's words. Inside, his stomach twisted, but he kept his face blank. He was used to this kind of thing, people staring, whispering, judging him before they knew him. It wasn't new, but it still hurt. Nobody likes being laughed at, right? Especially not on their first day. See, Jake had a story most kids didn't know. A year ago, something really bad happened. He was in a car crash, not his fault, just bad luck. The car flipped and his leg got crushed. He was in the hospital for weeks, with doctors poking and prodding. They put metal pins in his leg to hold it together. When he finally got out, they gave him crutches and a brace. "You'll need these for a long time," one doctor said, "maybe forever." Those words hit Jake hard, like a door slamming shut. Never walk without help again. That was tough to hear for a kid who used to run everywhere. But Jake wasn't the kind to quit. Deep down, he was stronger than anyone guessed. Sure, his leg hurt and moving was slow, but he didn't let it stop him. He worked hard every day to get better, even when it was tough. He'd push himself to walk a little farther, lift a little more, try a little harder. Nobody saw that part of him, not the doctors, not his family, and definitely not Cody and his friends. To them, Jake was just the new kid with the messed up leg. an easy target. Cody wasn't done though. All through math class, he kept it up. When Mrs. Carter turned to write on the board, Cody flicked a tiny paper ball at Jake's desk. It landed right on his notebook. Ryan and Max laughed under their breath, watching to see what Jake would do. Jake didn't do anything. He brushed the paper off and kept writing like it was no big deal. But inside, he noticed everything. Every smirk, every whisper, every mean glance. He was quiet, but he wasn't blind. The bell rang and kids grabbed their stuff to head to the next class. Jake took his time, waiting for the room to empty so he could move without bumping into anyone. Cody walked by his desk, accidentally knocking Jake's pencil to the floor. "Oops," Cody said, grinning like it was a game. Ryan and Max laughed again, following Cody out the door. Jake bent down slowly to pick up the pencil, his leg aching as he moved. He didn't say a word, but his eyes were sharp. He was thinking, planning, waiting. In the hallway, it didn't get better. Jake had to get to science class and the halls were packed with kids. His crutches slowed him down and people kept cutting in front of him. Most didn't mean to be rude, they were just in a hurry. But Cody and his crew, they saw Jake and made it worse. "Move it, Crutches," Max called out, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. A few kids turned to look and Jake felt his face get hot. He kept moving, head down, focusing on the click-click of his crutches. By lunchtime, Jake was tired, not just from walking, but from the weight of all those eyes and whispers. He found a spot at the edge of the cafeteria, away from the noisy tables where Cody and his friends sat. The room smelled like fries and pizza and kids were laughing and shouting. Jake ate his sandwich quietly, watching the crowd. He saw Cody at a big table, acting like a king, tossing food at his buddies and making everyone laugh. Jake didn't stare long. He didn't need to. He already knew what kind of kid Cody was. Here's the thing about Jake, he wasn't mad, not really. Sure, Cody's words stung and the laughs hurt, but Jake had been through worse. Way worse. The crash, the pain, the months of not knowing if he'd ever walk again, that was harder than any bully. Cody thought he was tough, but Jake knew real toughness. It wasn't about being loud or mean. It was about keeping going, even when everything felt heavy. Still, Jake wasn't perfect. Sitting there in the cafeteria, he felt a little alone. He missed his old school where he had friends who didn't care about his leg. He wondered if Westfield would ever feel like home. But then he shook his head like he was pushing those thoughts away. He wasn't here to feel sorry for himself. He was here to keep moving forward just like always. And deep inside, he knew something Cody didn't. Jake wasn't weak. He wasn't helpless. He was tough, tougher than anyone in this school could guess. Cody and his friends, they thought they had Jake all figured out. They saw the crutches, the brace, the quiet kid who didn't fight back, and they thought, easy. But they were wrong, so wrong. Jake wasn't just sitting there taking it. He was watching, learning, waiting for the right moment. And when that moment came, oh, Cody was in for a big surprise, a really big one. Days at Westfield Middle School turned into weeks, and Cody's crew never stopped picking on Jake. It was like they had a mission to make his life hard. In the hallways, they'd accidentally bump into his crutches, making them slip from under his arms. Jake's books would crash to the floor, papers flying everywhere. "Oops, sorry, Crutches," Cody would say with a big fake grin. His buddies Ryan and Max would laugh like it was the best joke ever. Sometimes they'd whisper limp a lot as Jake walked by, giggling to each other. It was loud enough for him to hear, but quiet enough that teachers didn't notice. Most kids in school didn't join in. They weren't mean like Cody, but they didn't stop it either. They'd just stand there watching like Jake was part of some show they didn't want to get involved in. Their eyes followed him in the cafeteria, in class, in the halls. Jake could feel it, the weight of all those stares. It made his stomach feel tight, like he was carrying a heavy rock inside. But he didn't let it show. He kept his head up, his face calm, even when his leg ached and his heart hurt a little. Jake wasn't the kind of kid to sit around feeling sad, though. Nope, not at all. He had a secret, something nobody at school knew about. After the last bell rang and the halls emptied out, Jake didn't go straight home like most kids. Instead, he made his way to an old building at the edge of town. It was called the community center, but hardly anyone used it anymore. The paint on the walls was peeling, and the front door creaked like it was complaining. And to most people, it was just a dusty, forgotten place. But to Jake, it was special. Inside, way in the back, Jake found a room that changed everything. It wasn't fancy, just a small space with a hard floor, a few old mats, and a heavy punching bag hanging from the ceiling. The bag was worn out, with patches where the stuffing poked through. The mats were faded, smelling like sweat and time. But to Jake, that room was like a treasure chest. It was his place where he could be himself, away from Cody's laughs and the school's stares. Here's the big secret. Before the car crash that messed up his leg, Jake was really good at martial arts. Not just any martial arts, but two kinds: Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. Those are fancy names, but they mean fighting with your hands, feet, and whole body in super cool ways. Jake used to train all the time, learning how to punch, kick, and roll on the ground like a pro. He wasn't just okay at it, he was awesome. His old coach used to say, "Jake, you've got heart and skill. That's a winning mix." The crash took a lot from him. It broke his leg bad, left him with a brace and crutches, and made the doctors shake their heads. They said he'd never move like he used to. For a while, Jake believed them. He felt like his old self was gone, like the crash stole the kid who loved to jump and run. But then something clicked inside him. He decided he wasn't done yet. He wasn't going to let a busted leg stop him forever. So every day after school, Jake went to that dusty room in the community center. He'd set his crutches against the wall where they leaned like quiet friends. He'd wrap his hands with soft bandages to protect his knuckles. Then he'd start moving, slow at first. His leg hurt a lot. Sometimes it felt like fire was burning inside his brace. But Jake didn't quit. He'd punch the bag, soft taps at first, then harder. Thump, thump. Each hit made his arms feel stronger. He'd try kicks, lifting his good leg to tap the bag. His bad leg stayed low, but he worked it too, inch by inch. Some days he'd roll on the mats, practicing jiu-jitsu moves. He'd fall, get up, fall again. Sweat dripped down his face and his brace felt heavy, but he kept going. Every punch, every kick, every roll made him feel alive. It wasn't just his body getting stronger, it was his mind, too. In that room, Jake wasn't crutches or limp a lot. He was just Jake, a kid who wouldn't give up. He was training for something, even if he didn't know exactly when he'd need it. He was waiting for the right moment to show what he could do. Back at school, things stayed tough. Cody's crew kept up their tricks. One morning, Jake was heading to history class when Max tripped and knocked Jake's lunch bag out of his hand. An apple rolled across the floor and kids laughed as Max shrugged like it was an accident. Jake picked up his stuff slowly, his face blank. Inside, though, he was watching. He noticed how Max looked at Cody for approval, how Cody's grin got bigger when people laughed. Jake didn't say anything, but he was learning. Another time in the cafeteria, Ryan grabbed Jake's water bottle when he wasn't looking and hid it behind his back. "Where's your drink, Crutches?" Ryan teased, smirking. Jake just reached for his sandwich and ate like nothing happened. The other kids at the table looked away, not wanting trouble. Jake didn't make a fuss. He didn't need to. He knew something they didn't. He wasn't helpless. He was getting ready. Then one day something changed. It was a sunny afternoon and Jake was in the courtyard during lunch break. Cody and his crew were there too, goofing off near the benches. They saw Jake and started their usual game. This time it was Jake's backpack. Cody grabbed it from where Jake had set it down and tossed it to Max. "Catch!" Cody shouted, laughing. Max threw it to Ryan and they kept it going, tossing it back and forth like a ball. Kids around them watched, some giggling, some looking nervous. Jake stood there, leaning on his crutches. His backpack sailed through the air, landing near Cody's feet. Normally, Jake would have waited for them to get bored and move on. But this time something felt different. Maybe it was the weeks of training, or maybe he was just tired of their games. He took a slow breath and looked right at Cody, not with anger, but with something stronger. "You done yet?" he said. His voice was calm, quiet, but it cut through the noise like a knife. Cody froze for a second, just one tiny second. He wasn't used to Jake talking back. Nobody was. The courtyard got quiet, like everyone was holding their breath. Then Cody laughed loud and fake. "Whatever, Crutches, keep dreaming," he said, kicking Jake's backpack into a muddy puddle. Max and Ryan cracked up and the game was over. They walked off, still laughing, thinking they'd won. But they hadn't won, not really. That moment, Jake's voice, his steady eyes, it was a hint. A small crack in the wall Cody thought he'd built around him. Jake wasn't just taking it anymore. He was pushing back, even if it was just a little. And Cody, he didn't know it yet, but that pause, that tiny moment when he froze, was a sign. Jake wasn't dreaming, he was planning. And his plan was getting closer to coming true. The whole school was buzzing about the annual talent show at Westfield Middle School. It was the biggest event of the year, and everyone was excited. Kids were whispering in the halls, guessing who'd do what. Some were singing, some were dancing, and others were planning funny skits. Cody Baxter and his buddies, Ryan and Max, were the loudest about it. They bragged all week about their skit, a silly act where they'd pretend to be superheroes, jumping around and making goofy noises. They thought it'd make everyone laugh and prove they were the coolest kids in school. Jake heard all the talk, but he stayed quiet. Nobody knew it, but he'd signed up for the talent show too. He didn't tell a single person what he was planning, not his teachers, not his classmates, not even his mom. When he told her he was in the show, she just smiled, her eyes warm. "I'm proud of you, Jake," she said, giving him a hug. "Whatever you do, you're gonna shine." Jake nodded, keeping his secret safe. He wasn't sure if he'd shine, but he knew one thing: this was his chance to show everyone who he really was. The night of the talent show finally came and the school gym was packed. Every seat was taken and people were standing along the walls. Kids sat with their friends, giggling and pointing at the stage. Parents held cameras, ready to snap pictures. Teachers stood at the edges, keeping an eye on things. The gym smelled like popcorn and excitement, with bright lights shining down on a big stage in the middle. A red curtain hung at the back, swaying a little as kids ran backstage to get ready. Cody's group went first. Their skit was loud, just like they'd promised. They wore capes made of old bedsheets and pretended to fight fake bad guys. Cody shouted his lines, jumping around like he was the star of a movie. The crowd laughed, mostly because Cody was acting so wild, tripping over his cape and making silly faces. When they finished, Cody took a big bow, grinning like he'd already won the show. Ryan and Max high-fived him and the audience clapped, though some kids rolled their eyes. Then it was Jake's turn. The gym got quiet, like someone had turned down the volume. Jake walked onto the stage, his crutches clicking on the wooden floor. His brace glinted under the bright lights and his backpack was nowhere in sight. He'd left it backstage. Every eye was on him and not all of them were friendly. Kids whispered to each other, wondering what he was doing. From the front row, Cody's voice cut through the quiet. "What's he gonna do, trip for us?" he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Ryan and Max snickered, and a few other kids laughed nervously. Jake didn't look at Cody, he didn't look at anyone. He just moved to the center of the stage, slow and steady. His heart was pounding, but his face was calm. He leaned his crutches against a chair at the edge of the stage, letting them rest there like they were waiting for him. The crowd started murmuring, confused. Why was he putting his crutches down? Wasn't he supposed to need them? Mr. Harris, the gym teacher, walked out next. He was a big guy with a kind smile, and he pushed a big padded mat onto the stage. Behind it came a training dummy, a heavy, stuffed figure shaped like a person, used for practicing sports. The crowd got louder now, whispering and pointing. What was going on? Jake stood by the mat, taking a deep breath. Then he turned to the audience, his green eyes steady. "This is for anyone who's ever been told they're not enough," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it was strong, like a rock that wouldn't budge. The whispers stopped. Everyone leaned forward, waiting. Then the music started, a fast, thumping beat that filled the gym. It was sharp, like a heartbeat, making the air feel alive. Jake moved, slow at first. His bad leg dragged a little and his brace made a soft squeak. Some kids in the crowd leaned back, thinking that was it. But then Jake surprised them. He dropped to the mat, fast and smooth, rolling into a move called a jiu-jitsu sweep. It was like a dance, but stronger, fiercer. The crowd gasped, their eyes wide. Jake didn't stop. He sprang up, faster now, like his leg wasn't hurt at all. He faced the training dummy and threw a kick, a perfect Muay Thai kick that hit the dummy square in the middle. The thwack echoed through the gym and his brace shone under the lights like it was part of the show. People's mouths dropped open. Jake spun, his body moving like water, smooth and sure. He punched the dummy, quick and sharp, then dropped again, rolling into another jiu-jitsu move. Every step, every hit was strong, like he'd been practicing forever. The music got louder and so did Jake. He wasn't limping now. He wasn't slow. He was fast, powerful, like a storm nobody saw coming. He grabbed the dummy, twisting it down to the mat with a jiu-jitsu hold, his hands quick and sure. Then he jumped up and threw another kick, higher this time, making the dummy rock back. The crowd was losing it. Kids were cheering, parents were clapping, teachers were smiling. Even Mr. Harris, standing off to the side, was nodding like he couldn't believe it. In the front row, Cody wasn't laughing anymore. His smirk was gone, like someone had wiped it off his face. His eyes were big and his mouth hung open. Ryan and Max looked just as shocked, their hands frozen in their laps. They didn't know what to say. Nobody did. The kid they called Crutches, the kid they teased and pushed around, he was up there owning the stage, moving like a superhero from a movie. Jake kept going, his moves getting bolder. He spun into a high kick, his good leg slicing through the air. Then he dropped low, rolling across the mat like it was nothing. His bad leg worked too, not perfect, but strong, helping him balance. Sweat shone on his face, but he didn't look tired. He looked alive, like every move was setting him free. The music hit its biggest beat, and Jake saved his best for last. He backed up, took a quick breath, and ran a few steps, brace and all. Then he jumped, pulling off a flying knee strike that slammed into the dummy with a loud bam. He landed steady, his feet firm, his eyes bright. The gym exploded. Kids jumped out of their seats, shouting and clapping. Parents were on their feet, cheering like it was a sports game. Teachers clapped too, some with their hands over their mouths in surprise. The noise was so loud it shook the walls, like a wave crashing over everyone. Jake stood there, breathing hard, a small smile on his face. He wasn't just good, he was amazing. The kid they thought was weak had just shown them all he was anything but. Cody's face was pale now. He didn't say a word. His buddies looked at each other like they didn't know what to do. The kid they laughed at, the one they called names, he wasn't who they thought. Jake wasn't Crutches. He was a fighter, a real one, with skills that left everyone's jaws on the floor. And right then, in that roaring gym, Jake owned the stage and the whole school knew it. After Jake's big moment at the talent show, Westfield Middle School felt different. It wasn't like flipping a switch, but something had changed in the air. Kids didn't look at Jake the same way anymore. Instead of whispers or giggles when he walked by with his crutches, they smiled, some even waved. The day after the show, a bunch of kids crowded around him in the cafeteria. "Jake, how'd you learn to kick like that?" one asked, eyes wide. "Was it hard with your brace?" Another said. Jake just grinned a little, not used to all the attention. "I practiced a lot," he said simply. That was enough for them. They thought he was cool now. The teachers noticed the change too. Some felt bad for not doing more when Cody and his buddies were picking on Jake. Mrs. Carter, the math teacher, stopped him after class one day. "I'm sorry I didn't see what was going on," she said, her voice soft. "You're really something, Jake." Jake shrugged, not sure what to say. He didn't want people to feel bad, he just wanted things to be fair. Mr. Harris, the gym teacher, was different. He pulled Jake aside in the hall, a big smile on his face. "Kids, you've got heart," he said. "Ever think about teaching other kids how to move like that?" Jake's eyes got big. Teach him? He hadn't thought about it, but it made him feel warm inside. Cody and his crew, Ryan and Max, they were quiet now. They didn't bump Jake's crutches or call him Crutches anymore. It wasn't because they were super scared, though maybe they were a tiny bit. It was more like they couldn't act like Jake was weak after what he did on that stage. Everyone saw him kick and roll like a pro. Nobody could pretend he was just some kid to laugh at. One day, when Jake was getting his books from his locker, Cody walked by alone. He stopped, looked around to make sure no one was listening, and mumbled, "Sorry." It was quick, almost too quiet to hear. Jake just nodded. He didn't need Cody to like him or beg for forgiveness. He'd already shown he was stronger than Cody's mean words. The biggest change came from the school itself. A week after the talent show, the principal, Ms. Lopez, called a special meeting in the gym. Every kid was there, sitting on the bleachers. Ms. Lopez stood in the middle, her voice clear. "We need to talk about how we treat each other," she said. She didn't name Jake, but she talked about his performance, how it showed what someone can do when they don't give up. "It's a wake-up call," she said. "No more picking on anyone. If you see it, say something." The kids nodded, some looking at their shoes. Jake sat in the back, listening quietly. He didn't feel like a hero, but he felt proud. After that meeting, things got better. Kids started sticking up for each other. If someone got teased in the hall, another kid would say, "Knock it off." The cafeteria felt friendlier, like people weren't so afraid to be themselves. It wasn't perfect, schools never are, but it was lighter, like a big cloud had lifted. Jake's courage had opened a door, one that showed everyone it was okay to be kind, to stand tall, even if you felt small. Jake walked a little easier after that, not because his leg hurt less, but because he knew he'd made a difference. He didn't need to fight anyone to win, he'd done that already just by being himself. Jake walked home from the talent show under a big, dark sky. The stars above Westfield twinkled like tiny lights, brighter than he'd ever noticed before. His crutches clicked on the sidewalk, same as always. His leg brace felt heavy like it did every day. But tonight, something was different. Now, Jake carried something new in his heart, respect. Not just from the kids and teachers who cheered for him, but from himself. He felt proud, like he'd climbed a huge hill and made it to the top. As he walked, Jake thought about everything that happened. The mean words, the laughs, the times he felt small, they didn't feel so big anymore. He'd shown everyone he was more than a kid with crutches. He was strong, not just in his punches and kicks, but in his heart. That strength didn't come from being loud or pushing others down. It came from keeping going, even when things were hard. Jake smiled a little, thinking about it. He didn't need to be the fastest or the toughest to win. He just needed to be himself. Here's something to think about. The strongest people aren't always the ones who shout the loudest or run the quickest. Sometimes they're the quiet ones, the ones who don't give up even when everyone says they should. Jake was like that. People called him names and laughed because of his leg, but they didn't know his story. They didn't see the hours he spent practicing, pushing through pain, believing he could do more. Those people who point and tease, they're often just scared of what's different, scared of what they don't get. But Jake wasn't scared. He stood tall, and that changed everything. So next time you see someone getting picked on, think of Jake. Maybe they're quiet, or they look different, or they don't fit in. That doesn't mean they're weak. They might be hiding something amazing, just like Jake did. The kid who seems small could be the one who surprises everyone, who flips the story around and makes it better. You can help make that happen. If you see someone being mean, say something, be a friend. Lift someone up instead of pushing them down. That's what makes a real difference. Now, Jake's story isn't just about one night or one school. It's about all of us. It's about finding your own strength even when things feel tough. It's about being kind even when others aren't. And it's about believing you can do big things no matter what anyone says. Jake didn't let his brace stop him, and you don't have to let anything stop you either. Hey, what did you think of Jake's story? Drop a comment and tell me, would you stand up like he did? Maybe you've got a story of your own about being brave. I'd love to hear it. And if Jake's tale made you feel something, share it with a friend. Let's keep telling stories that make us stronger, kinder, and ready to shine, just like those stars above Westfield.